Greetings, loved ones. If you have just discovered that your child or child you care about has been sexually abused, it may feel as if your world is falling apart. But there is hope. Other caring adults have been where you are. Today we're going to continue our series on caring for sexually abused children, discussing an overview of some of the most important information and safety messages for children of various ages. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button and the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. You could save a life. So let's discuss some important information and safety messages that you need to share with your children. Keep in mind that you do not need to bombard children with information all at once. Let the situation and the child's questions guide the lessons you share. The important thing is to let children know that you are ready to listen and to answer whatever questions they may have. So we need to break up this information for different age groups. What do we teach and when? So let's begin with preschool children. That would be children less than 4 years old, and this is the basic information you want to give them. Boys and girls are different. Make sure they know the accurate names for body parts for boys and girls. That babies come from mommies. Let them know that there are rules about personal boundaries. For example, keeping private parts covered and not touching other person's private parts. And make sure you give simple answers to all questions about the body and bodily functions. So that was up to 4 years. Now we're going to talk about preschool children who are less than 4 years old. Safety information. The difference between okay touches, which are comforting, pleasant, and welcome, and not okay touches, which are intrusive, uncomfortable, unwanted, or painful. Let them know that your body belongs to you. Also let them know that everyone has the right to say no to being touched, even by grown-ups. And let them know that no one, child or adult, has the right to touch their private parts. You also need to let them know that it's okay to say no when grown-ups ask you to do things that are wrong, such as touching private parts or keeping secrets from mommy and daddy. And I'm going to pause right here. There are no secrets. Children need to know there are no secrets. Teach them the difference between a surprise, which is something that will be revealed sometime soon, like a present. So let's move forward. I'm going to repeat that. There's a difference between a surprise and a secret. A surprise is something that will be revealed sometime soon, like a present, and a secret is something you're supposed to never tell. Stress that it is never okay to keep secrets from mommy and daddy. And then tell them who to tell if people do not okay things to them or ask them to do not okay things. So now let's go on and talk about children, young children, approximately 4 to 6 years old. The basic information that you want them to have is that boys' and girls' bodies change when they get older. You want them to have simple explanations of how babies grow in their mother's wombs and about the birth process. You want them to have rules about personal boundaries, such as keeping private parts covered, not touching other children's private parts. And again, simple answers to all questions about the body and bodily functions. Also, at this age of 4 to 6, you want them to have the basic information that touching their own private parts can feel nice, but it's something done in private. So we're going to continue with young children, ages 4 to 6, and this is the safety information you want them to know. You want them to know that sexual abuse is when someone touches their private parts or asks them to touch their private parts. You want them to know it is sexual abuse even if it is by somebody they know. You want them to know that sexual abuse is never the child's fault. You want them to know if a stranger tries to get them to go with him or her, that they are to run away, scream, tell a parent, teacher, neighbor, police officer, or other trusted adult. And you want them to know who to tell if people do not okay things to them or ask them to do not okay things. So now let's talk about school-age children, approximately 7 to 12 years old, and the basic information you want them to know. You want them to know what to expect and how to cope with the changes of puberty, including menstruation and wet dreams. You want them to know the basics of reproduction, pregnancy, and childbirth. You want them to know the risks of sexual activities such as pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. You want them to know the basics of contraception. And you want them to know that masturbation is common and not associated with long-term problems, but it should always be done in private, alone. So let's talk about safety information for these school-age children, approximately 7 to 12 years old. Sexual abuse may or may not involve touch. It's important they know that. You want them to know how to maintain safety and personal boundaries when they're chatting or meeting people online. I'm going to stop there. You want them to know never to send pictures of themselves to anybody ever. If somebody texts them and says, oh, send me a picture of you, they need to tell mom and dad immediately, because these are people who will ask for a general picture, talk about how beautiful they are. Then they'll ask for a picture maybe in a bathing suit or their underwear, and then they'll ask for a picture of maybe without any clothes or something like that. But what they'll do is they will use these pictures to force the person to give more. They'll say, well, I'm going to send these pictures to everybody you know. Make sure your children know. Don't ever give a picture to somebody who is talking to you online. You want them to know how to recognize and avoid risky social situations, and you want them to know your dating rules. If you're unsure of what to say to your child about sexual issues, don't be afraid to do some research. In addition to talking to your pediatrician or doctor, you can turn to online resources such as the Sexuality Information and Education Council of the United States. Families Are Talking websites. That information will be listed in our information. There are also several excellent books available on talking to children about sexual issues, as well as books that you and your children can read together. Parents, listen, you play a pivotal role in helping your children develop healthy attitudes and behaviors towards sexuality, and you have the opportunity to prevent them from becoming victims. Although talking with your children about sex may feel outside your comfort zone, there are many resources available to help you begin and continue the conversation about sexuality. Providing close supervision and providing clear, positive messages about modesty, boundaries, and privacy are crucial as children move through the stages of childhood. By talking openly with your children about relationships, intimacy, and sexuality, you can foster their healthy growth and development. Remember, according to the CDC, over half of all the children in the world, that's 1 billion children ages 2 to 17, experience violence every year. The question is not if you'll encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. Micah 6:8 says, He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. If you're a victim, I want you to know there is a way out. It is not your fault. Abuse is not love. You are not alone. And if you are suffering violence, reach out to someone today. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. And if you know of a child or other person suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we're going to talk about the truth about sexual abuse of children. Until then, God bless you.